We're going to have the blessing of the audience. Sometimes when you're Catholic, you never get over it. But anyway, I was telling Ivanka just this afternoon. It's nice to see so many people I owe money to. That's it. I think I'm running out of them anyway.
Okay, I'm gonna do. Can you hear me, everybody? Yes. Okay, I'm gonna do a proper introduction of the great Duane Michals. First, my name is Lolita Cros. Hi, everybody.
Yo.
I'm an independent curator, and tonight I'm thrilled to introduce you to the great Duane Michals. A self-taught photographer who is one of the most influential artists of the 20th century. Born in 1932, he started taking pictures in the late 50s, early 60s, before having his first solo exhibition at MoMA in 1970. Duane Michals is known for handwriting notes on his photographs, for his sequences and his unique portraits. Tonight we will be talking about Expressionism, the ephemeral, and his more recent works.
Great. Can I go now?
We're going. No. First of all, this picture. I want to talk about this picture because from what I understand, this is how you started taking photographs. This is how you got into photographs in 1958.
Well, you know, we were talking to Russians, and I wanted to become Putin. I was going to change my name to Putin, and I borrowed a camera, and the trip changed my life. If I hadn't gone with the borrowed camera, I wouldn't be sitting here today. Hello, and wow, everybody's here. My late mother. Wow, that's scary. Anyway, and so that's how you took pictures. You know, you have people. I call it stand and stare, and you have them line up, and then you take their picture and you say smile, and that's how it all started. And then I went downhill from there. Yeah.
Okay, so after that, you also had a portrait. After the portrait, you had the Empty New York series in the 60s.
Yeah.
Now, can I say a couple words that I stole from you about the Empty series? You said, talking about Eugene Auger, you said, "I became so enchanted by the intimacy of the rooms and streets and people he photographed that I found myself looking at 20th century New York in the early morning through his 19th century eyes," which I think is a very great.
Well, I knew this wasn't a destination. It was just a project I loved doing, and I loved New York. But I began to look at all these rooms, and they looked like stage sets to me. You see the little barber's white coat, and I thought, well, he comes in, he puts on his barber jacket, and then he does his barber act. And then eventually I thought, well, then why don't I people these little stage sets? Why don't I make my own drama? And then the question was, well, what do you have to say? You know what? And that was the big mountain. What do you have to say, and how do you say it? Anyway, so I was veering right at the beginning away from traditional photography. I never went to photography school, and I never learned the photography rules, so it wasn't difficult for me to break them. And also, I wasn't interested in looking at things. I was much more interested in how things feel. So if I see a woman crying, I want to know, what does her grief feel like? What's making her cry? Why is she crying? So it was all about question, and it was so liberating. I didn't have to wait for a decisive moment. I could have the moment before and the moment after, and a little more wiggle room to wiggle. I love to wiggle.
Can you talk about the prose portrait? You just talked about the stand and stare earlier. Can you go back to the prose portrait?
Well, I've just finished a new portrait book, and I'm writing an essay about portraits. And there's a traditional portrait I call it stand and stare. We all do it in the dark. Everybody does it. Everybody stands and stares into the camera. When our cousins came from Chicago, my mother would line everybody up in the backyard and say, "Okay, Sophie, you know, did you get, you know?" And then I have another, and that's what we all do. Then I have another one which I call prose portrait. And a prose portrait is a portrait that tells something about the person. You don't necessarily have to see them, but you suggest, like all the Magritte portraits I did were done in the manner of Magritte's work. And then I did something recently with Michael Cram. He plays Michael Richards, and I did him doing Jacques Tati shtick. So it's working in the manner of the person. I call them bespoke portraits. They're custom-made portraits. It should be.
This is great.
Yeah, prose portrait should be one that says, it's not a harsh portrait, harsh portrait of Churchill. It's a Churchill by the photographer. The person's name should be above the marquee. Oh, that's we only next. Well,
Jasper Johns.
This is a picture I did a long time ago of Jasper Johns, based on his flag. Remember the flags?
Yes.
And do we salute flags anymore? I have no idea. But so this is a prose portrait. I mean, yeah, it's in the manner of what one of his pieces are about. And you should never take the same portrait twice. And sometimes when people develop a formula, then everybody fits into the formula, and it's not about the person. I love Arnold Newman's work, but he was such a grand stylist and designer. He did a picture of Kim Stanley sitting sitting in the sofa, and the sofa was like this, and he had her stick her head, you know, so it would fit into the thing. I heard she broke her neck, actually. It's so young, so young.
Do you treat portraits the same way you treat self-portraits? How do you photograph yourself? How do you deal with it?
I'm not particularly in the self-portrait business. Although I am selfish, I don't do selfies. Well, anyway, it's a play on words. That's all I got. But
you include yourself in a lot of your portraits.
No, I do because it seems appropriate, you know. But I'm not particularly interested in photographing myself, you know. That's all I have to say.
Okay. And how do you? I was talking earlier to somebody in the audience, and we were talking about the person you photograph. How do you pick your models? Who are besides the commissions?
I rather pick them up rather than pick. I'm very good with actors and actresses, usually waitresses and waiters, waiting. And no, it's, you know, you have an idea in your mind and you look for somebody who's appropriate, you know. I love working with people who are not professionals. Oh.
Oops, sorry.
Oh.
I'm using my left hand, it's really complicated.
Yeah, all right.
I want to talk about the photo series, about the sequences. Oh, this is not one of them, sorry. I want to start with this grandmother.
That Death Comes the Old Lady, 1969. My grandmother, she had Alzheimer's. This is a sequence, sorry to interrupt. Yeah, and that's my father's Mr. Death, and then he touches her on the shoulder, and the thing is, because she had Alzheimer's, she got up very, very slowly, and that's exactly what I wanted. I wanted her particles to break up into the universe, and you could literally see her particles floating and bursting back into space. And I was very excited about that. Don't forget, this was in 1969 when the only legitimate photography would be walking around the street hoping to do a decisive moment. That was the only. John Zarkowski ran a very tight little ship, and anybody who had any kind of imagination or anything outside of the formula of the, you know, the MoMA studios, you're out of business.
Why evoke death so much? Because it's kind of the opposite of the now. It's a moment that you evoke, but then death stays forever. It's permanent.
Since when?
Unless you believe in the afterlife.
No, listen, I make the term I'm looking for is 85. In my family, everybody goes 85, 86, 87. Whoa, do the math. You know, I have to have a liquid refreshment. No, but it's very strange to find this. No, that's a very interesting thing. I like the thought that by the time I got to be this age, I would have figured something out. I don't know what the fuck's going on. I have absolutely no idea who's talking. My bladder is filling up. I'm going to fart any second. I have no body control over any of this. My hair stopped growing years ago. There were kajillion stars right out there at this very moment, exploding and blowing up. And we're in the midst of an extraordinary thing. There's an interesting thing I read yesterday that said that Buckminster Fuller said, I seem to be a verb, and some physicist somewhere said that we seem to be an event. Particles are not really things, they're events, and we're all an event in the universe. We're all shaking the web. And it's so bizarre and inane and thrilling and scary, and the human condition, you know, I don't know. Life is so shitty for most people. It's just so sad. We're all privileged, every one of us in this room, you know, and it's all going to go away. You know, here I am. No, I'm not. There it goes. Where'd I go? Who? That's it.
It's true, but you talk about moments not only about death, but you also talk about moments of love. And I'm going to point to...
Are we showing my porn?
This is your history.
Well, I'm getting dizzy here. My light is flashing in front of my eyes.
I'm looking for this beautiful picture, the proof of love.
Oh, you mean this photograph is my proof?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
I renamed it because I've seen it so much.
There it is. It's up higher.
Did I pass it?
Yep.
Oh, yeah, it's this
There
one.
it is. Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
All of these, I'm from a little town called McKeesport, Pennsylvania. It was one of the gritty steel towns that went belly up. But during the Second World War, I thought it was the entire center of the universe, and Hitler was going to send the entire Luftwaffe to bomb the hell out of McKeesport, which was the most desirable, the most everything where, you know, Western civilization began. And so all of these pictures, that's in my grandmother's house, my other grandmother. And if you look at it, there's another picture with my mother, the same Chanel sheet. That's my cousin Kenny and his bride Phyllis. And I had taken that originally just as a kind of a wedding picture for them. And then later when I began to write on photographs, because I became very frustrated with the silence of photography. Photography doesn't show you anything, it shows you what things look like, you know. And, you know, photography deals with reality. But the question essentially, well, then what reality are we talking about? You know, we spend a third of our lives dreaming. Why don't we photograph dreams? What about your anxieties? How did you feel when somebody that you loved walked out and said they didn't want to see you ever again? My God, that's the stuff of work. It's not looking at faces and smiling and smiling. No, it's getting into your own truth, whatever that happens to be. And that's the hardest thing to figure out. And then later, I began to realize how most important photographs are not in MoMA or any of those. Anachronism? Anyway, none, Safa, MoMA, Boba, none of those places. They're all in your wallet. They're on your house. They're the picture of the last photograph that you took of your mother before she died. They're the picture when you were in the army with your best friend who got killed. They're the picture you had in high school, that first girlfriend or boyfriend you had. Those are the great pictures that you have. Everything else is just distraction, sighs and whispers. But so when I thought of this, and I thought, sometimes the only proof you have, especially at this age, when you forgot the color of anybody's hair or the sound of their voice or the color, is that picture in your wallet. And that is so important. That's the most important, because it reminds you that that moment when you say now is not now is still now there. There it is. Look, see for yourself. It's our history. Those pictures are our history. One of my favorite things, I like to write and play with language. I wrote a poem about, it says, time is such a funny thing. It's like a hole inside a ring. It's always now and never then, but when I say it's now again, it's never now, but always then. I'm always here but never there, but when I go from here to there, then there is here and here is there. And if you think you're very tall, besides a tree, you're not at all. And if you think you're very small, besides a bee, you're 10 feet tall. When we dream, we seem awake, but all along the dream was fake. You say you're I and also me. I know that's true. How can that be, since I'm not you and you're not me? Time is not what you might think it is and isn't in a wink. But a Burma shave. Never mind.
So there's time, but there's also space. This picture, or this sequence, because I'm gonna play it for people. But this sequence to me represents the relativity of time and maybe space. You can tell me what you think of it.
Yeah. Well, this is called Things Are Queer, because the first thing you have to realize, we are queer creatures living on a queer planet and in a queer universe, and all those things that you think are real and all those things that make you comfortable are not real, and you have to abandon them all if you really want to find it. So this contradicts. See, people believe photographs, the most beautiful Dutch trompe-l'oeil with all the little bees and the cherries, you're in awe of it because it looks so beautifully rendered. But you know it's not real, but people believe photographs. So photographers tell me what I already know. I know what birds look like, I know what tits look like, I know what cars look like. I don't want to know about, tell me what I don't know, you know, something looks like. Better than that, tell me what it feels like. And if you don't know how to do that, then figure it out, because figuring it out is called being creative.
This is creative.
Yeah, but I'm both.
Speaking of
Did we do
tits,
the whole thing?
yeah, we did. Well, I just
Okay, yeah.
put everything.
Speaking of tits.
Speaking of tits, this is the beautiful for you. So there's the male version here,
Yeah.
and the female version.
Right.
Can you talk about beauty, or can you talk about what these two represent to you?
Well, the thing is that people love nudity. What is it? We all know what dicks look like and everything else looks like. I don't know what word you can say anymore like that.
It's okay, you can say everything.
No,
So toddlers.
pussy, I don't know what offends. Is pussy offensive?
It's fine.
Okay, all right. Well, I have to go to the source. Hello, source. Anyway, what was I talking about? I got so distracted. Oh,
beauty.
Yes. Yeah.
And beauty.
Yeah. Well, I decided I was going to mention the most beautiful part of each body. That doesn't necessarily mean like I don't really want tits because I'm gay. So I love. Never mind. Let's let me go there. I'll get in real trouble. But this says, in the oldest dreams of old men, women's breasts still remain long after their desires have turned to dust. They are their first memories, warm, nurturing home, the point of satisfaction. Perfect in their gracious arcs, women wear their breasts as medals, emblems of their love. Next.
Yeah.
The most beautiful part of a man's body, I think it must be there where the torso sits on and into the hips, those twin delineating curves, girdling the trunk, guiding the, feminine and grace, girdling the trunk, guiding the eye downwards to their intersection, the point of pleasure. So I love that idea that, how many nudes have you seen, but has anybody ever annotated? I almost bought a picture a long time ago of Ache that I couldn't afford, but I wanted it because it was annotated, and he had mentioned how it should be printed. And suddenly his hand on it. That's why I like writing. I love mistakes. I like the flaws. Our poetry and our vulnerability and our humanity is all in our flaws. It's not in our Trumpish parts. Never mind.
Do you come up with the text first or the photo?
The egg.
The what?
And then the chicken. Never mind. No, I don't know the idea. It's always about the idea. I've got a great mind. Not great as some, but greater than others. And I pay attention, and ideas constantly pop into my head. But the thing is, I act on them. I'm used to, each thought is a gift. I don't know where thoughts come from. It's like they bubble up from the thought soup.
You talk about really personal subjects, and this is one of them. This is a picture about your father. Can you read the text if people can read it?
Yeah. It says, "My father could walk in the sky. He promised to teach me how. But he left without saying goodbye. I don't cry. I'm a grown-up now." I love this. My father could walk in the sky. That guy could do anything. He was amazing. He could even drive a car and everything. He was really big. He was a big guy. And he was going to teach me how. Now, how great is that? And then I'm going to be just like him, and I can drive a car too, and everything. But he left without saying goodbye. I don't know. I came home and he wasn't there. I said, "Mom, where's Dad?" And he said, "I'll tell you later. I can't talk now." I said, "What do you mean? Why are you crying? Where's Dad? What happened?" "I'll tell you later." I don't cry. I'm a grown-up now. Next.
Beautiful. Oh yeah, this is another one of the writing.
Yeah. To me the key word is expression. It's not photography. It's not writing. It's not tap dancing. It's not whatever. It's how well do you express yourself. And I tell students, you're so nuts. You want to graduate from school where you owe $1 billion, and you will go to a gallery, and then you want to get $1 billion pictures, and you want to be Cindy Sherman. But boom. No. The job of your work is not to provide you your income, to support you. The job of your work is to express yourself. Expression is what it's all about. It is not about selling or buying. Sell shoes, but express yourself, and that's the hardest. Remember that series that, what was his name? Oh Christ, too many names. It was on Channel 13. Joseph Campbell, sounds like. The Power of Myth. Did I win anything?
Yeah.
I'll take the car. Anyway, and he said you have to find your bliss.
Yes.
You have to find that thing. I call it find that bug up your ass. Which reminds me of that funny movie that had, here I go again, Shirley MacLaine and Jack Nicholson was a terms of endearment, and she's she's meeting Jack Nicholson. They're having lunch, and he drives her along the beach, and her hair gets all blown. So they get to the restaurant. She goes to the ladies' room, and Jack Nicholson is an astronaut, and he starts, you know, roue, and he starts flirting with a young girl, and she comes out, Shirley MacLaine, and she takes a look, and she sees him flirting, and she's really indignant. And she said, you know, boys who who flirt don't get dessert. and he says to her, you know, I'm going to have to buy you a lot of alcohol. And she said, why? And he said, to kill that bug you've got up your ass. I think I'm going to buy, well, what's his name? Trump, a lot of alcohol.
Exactly.
A lot of alcohol. Oh, this is called The Unfortunate Man. Now, I don't like Mapplethorpe. I'm very specific on my likes and dislikes. I never knew him, but I got very angry because he was the only voice in town, you know? And it's funny because my friend Fred and I, this year, in the fall, we start our 58th year together. And so I was really pissed because Fred and myself, who wanted to have a house in the country and watch our gardens grow, we were considered by the hip and the cool and the glitterati and the fuckables and all, you know, we were considered the gay Uncle Toms. We were the ones who wanted to have, you know, all that kind of stuff. And they interviewed me for that program they had on him, but they didn't use my portion in the interview. I don't know why. But anyway, this is called The Unfortunate Man. It said, the unfortunate man could not touch the one he loved. It had been declared illegal by the law. Slowly his fingers became toes, and his hands gradually became feet, and he began to wear shoes on his hands to disguise his pain. It never occurred to him to break the law. See, that is about the nature. It's not about dicks and stuff like that. See Jane, see Dick, see Spot, remember that? Anyway, it's not about that. It's about getting into the essence, getting into the texture, the flavor, the sense, the smell of something. Anyway, it's like that. Next.
Why?
Yeah, go ahead.
No, just about I see so much word, and the words describe so much the picture.
No, they don't.
They don't?
No, the words do
Do
not
they
describe.
complement the picture?
Yeah.
How do you see
Here's
them?
a description. If the words describe the picture, it would say, cute guy, he's got a head backwards, and his hands are on the wall, and he's wearing shoes, and his butt is great. That's a description of the word. No, what I do when I write is to talk about what you cannot see in the photograph. What language has always been associated with photographs. You would pick up the picture of Times, and it says, Donald Trump's hair blows off like a disc and floats all the way to Texas, and there goes his hair. It tells you what you're looking at. On December 17th, the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor. You see bombing of Pearl Harbor. I write about what is invisible, what cannot be seen. And what is invisible is infinitely more important, because in feeling, how do you make anybody feel anything? Not bullshit. You know, bullshit is hip and cool, and anyway.
This is a picture that's nerdy titled, There Are Things Here Not Seen in This Photograph.
So when you look at a photograph, as I said, you believe the photograph, but you never question the photograph. So in this case, I wrote about everything you cannot see in the photograph. If you were actually there, I said it was a very hot afternoon, my shirt was wet with perspiration, the beer tasted good, some drunk was talking to another drunk about Nixon, Glenn Campbell was singing Southern Nights on the jukebox. I see a cockroach running up the bar stool, and then I had to go to the bathroom, and a drunk was coming, a clochard was coming up to hit me for some money, and I left. So I'm trying to give you the environment of the moment, because that's a lie. That just shows. But you know the great thing is that lie still exists. My high school graduation picture still exists. I don't know what that means. I just thought it was interesting. Okay.
Do you ever think about pictures as pieces of memory?
Well, they are. Everything's a fragment. Our lives end up being memory. Oh, I read something interesting the other day. It said that actually we don't exist as a fact. Oh, we seem to. But what exists is a series of sensations. Our lives are a series of impressions and feelings and sensations that actually, like a cloud, that forms but actually does not have a center. We have the illusion of these sensations culminating in experience. I don't know what that means, but I think it's not worth thinking about. Okay, next.
I want to come back to the photo series. How did you get into them? Was that because you were frustrated with the non-motion of photo?
Yeah, I was always frustrated with the silence of silent photographs, still photographs. They were just too still. I wanted to know about the moment before and the moment after, so then I had to make a wiggle room. I had to, you know, stretch the decisive moment to 2 or 3 moments. And that was so liberating. Now, don't forget, this was in the 1960s where this was totally a no-no. Gary Winogrand came into my first exhibit and walked out, and he was like, what is this? You know, it wasn't photography. So that's the problem. Photography was so clearly, and still is, clearly defined, you know, that it's tight-ass. It has to, if it's not, oh, you know what really pisses me off? Dare I tell you? No, there's a new category now which is called photographers, artists who use photographs. Now, they include Cindy Sherman, they include...
Gursky?
Yes, all of those guys. They include Eggleston, some gallery recently ran a piece in the Times, and it said that Mr. Eggleston has been reconfigured as an artist who takes photographs. Immediately, all of us go right back to Robert Frank, get out of here. This is the artist who takes photographs. What are you? No, it's interesting. It's so interesting. This is an artificial selling ploy. If Cindy Sherman's photographs were going for $35,000, when she became an artist who took photographs, conveniently they became $250,000. What do I see going on here? Do I see a pattern? Okay, next.
Well, you wrote a whole book called How Photography Lost Its Virginity on the Way to the Bank, which is a great title. How do you feel about having your work collected? Do you rather have it...
You want to buy something?
Let's talk after. No, do you rather have it seen in a book than have it seen on a wall?
Yeah, I love books. I buy lots of books, and you could describe me as being bookish. Anyway, I know where that's going.
Because I wanted to talk about the series. I just want to show everybody this series, which is...
Well, this is I Built a Pyramid.
Yeah,
I did a book on Egypt, and I built my own pyramid. When I was a kid, I used to build model cities. You know, little cities. And when I would go to the checkout counter at the A&P, I would arrange all the boxes into skylines. And so when I went to Egypt, it seemed reasonable that I should build a pyramid, you know.
Yours is bigger than the others, too.
Yeah, you got that.
Yeah.
Apparently it works.
Oh yeah, that has no transition, but I want to talk about the mirrors in your pictures. You use mirrors a lot.
I'm very vain, yes.
No, but not necessarily for you, but even this picture has a mirror in there. I was just looking at it earlier, and it seems very painterly. It's very like Velázquez or Manet, or, you know. Is that something you're thinking about?
The bar at the, what's the famous bar picture, man?
Yeah, Folies Bergère.
That was the Folies Bergère.
Yeah, they have the woman is standing in front of the audience.
That was the Folies Bergère?
Yeah, the waitress.
No, I know exactly, but I didn't think it was Folies. Were there nude girls?
Oh yeah, do nude girls have a mirror? Do they?
No.
There's probably one somewhere.
Folies Bergère, nudity, right?
This, okay,
I'm
this is
busy.
Sorry. This is the mirror.
Yeah, I use a lot of mirrors. I love mirrors. When I was a kid, I was always fascinated by mirrors. How do I get in? I always wanted to go in there, you know, and check it out, look around. And then I did this big project for French Vogue, and I did, it was about quantum, and I did, one of them was about, what's that thing where the tubes, they're not tubes. Come on, there's a physicist here somewhere. You know, when you go to other planets, like wormholes, give that man an automobile. Yeah, okay. Oh, there's a mirror there. Yeah, I bought that mirror in Bath in England. I saw it in an old antique store, and I came back on the plane with it sitting next to me. They must have thought I was the vainest, ugly person in the world.
I think I have another. Yeah, that's another mirror. This is Belchis.
Yeah, I love Belchis. I have 3 great loves in my life. There was Tom, Dick, and Harry. No, different loves. I dare not speak its name. No, this was Balthus. You know the famous painting, the street scene in the MoMA? He did 2 great street scenes, and the guy crossing the street with a piece of wood. You know where he got the guy crossing the street with a piece out of Piero della Francesca. The guy's walking with a piece of wood over his shoulder. Then there's a guy in the foreground and a little girl. And in the original painting, he had his hand on that little girl's downtown. And when they bought the painting, they had to, sometimes it's midtown and sometimes it's uptown, the hand. But anyway, when they got to, I thought that was funny. When they got to what was it? Oh, but when I sold it to MoMA, they had to repaint it and get that out of there. But every time I looked at it, there was such an aura. See, here's what I like. I don't like porn. Porn is usually about how to fuck, how to suck, whatever you want to do. That's how-to books. Eroticism is an atmosphere. There is an atmosphere. There's a sense. Have you ever been in a situation, maybe you met somebody and you're having a drink. This is totally fictional, of course. You're having a drink, and suddenly in the conversation, you begin to realize there's been a shift in language. Suddenly the language has taken on a term that seemed vaguely inappropriate, but in an alluring way. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. And suddenly suddenly you've gone from some kind of talking about politics, and suddenly you're talking about body parts. I don't know, but I love that switch. So I like the atmosphere. In both of his paintings, although some of them you could see downtown on little girls, but he had this, there was this atmosphere. A guy is making a fire and a young girl is sitting, leaning against the chair with her legs out, and I'll tell you where he got all of that, from Courbet. Courbet used to have a wonderful model. She had red hair, and she was in all of his paintings, and one of her famous paintings, his painting, is she's combing her hair. Beautiful red, I love red hair. Combing her hair. Do you know that painting? Look it up if you don't. And that's where Baltus got the combing of the hair and the mirror. And, yeah, I did a whole talk at Wellesley years ago about him and all that stuff. I love people's sources. Where do they come from? What, really, a lot of people don't like to talk about their sources. I think it's wonderful. And I also love Magritte, of course. The first time I saw Magritte's painting, it was in about 1960, and it was in Harper's Bazaar, and it was a naked lady holding a big mirror in front of her, but she was in the mirror, which was an entirely impossible. I thought it was photographs. How in the hell did he do that? And then I realized it. And Carol's here, and I was at Sidney Janice, and Carol, you had a Magritte show, and I think you didn't sell anything. There was no interest in Magritte in the 50s at all. But anyway, where was I going with that? So Magritte was a huge, because he contradicted me. See, my value is not to tell you what you know. My value is to contradict you. And photography tells me what I already know. Then that means you could play with people's perceptions and point out things to them that they thought were possible. And the other one was de Chirico, and I went to visit him, and he was so rude and very mean. And then he pretended he didn't speak English, and then we went out and had coffee later. And so I said to the guy who took me, I said, well, what is this? When we were in his house, he didn't speak English, and he was so rude. And the agent turned to me and he said, did you meet Mrs. de Chirico? Mrs. de Chirico. Never mind. Okay.
What's wrong with her?
All right. Oh, so I went to Rossignol to photograph him, and when I got there, he spoke perfect English. When I got there, he came to the door, like this, and the guy was holding his arm, and I introduced myself, and he said, where are you from? And I said, I'm from New York. And then he said to me, have you ever been to New York? I said, yes. And then I said, the major domo said, where do you want him to sit? And when Baltus heard him say sit, Baltus began to sit. He began to lower himself, but there was no chair there. And I ran around like a cartoon and shoved the chair. If his skinny, bony ass would have, I would have been the Baltus killer. It would have shattered into 100 pieces.
Can you talk about the story behind this picture and why there's a reflective surface? Can you see yourself from the
Well, it was the funniest thing because we lived on 9th Street between 5th and 6th, and I got the assignment to photograph Duchamp, and I was very excited. So we were at 27 West 9th, and the address was 27 West 8th, 10th Street. Are you the lady who lives in this apartment?
Yeah. No.
Yeah. Yeah. It was so amazing, and every May, I could see this old lady in the window and that old guy, and they would close the shutters, and I'd say, hey Fred, those old people are gone, summer's here, and then in October the shutters, and they would be there. So I had been watching them through the window all those years. I saw them fuck, oh, everything. No, I just that didn't, nobody paid attention. I said, I saw Duchamp fucking. That's all you're going to remember. And you know Duane saw Duchamp fucking. No, so when I got there, and I went outside, there's a little balcony, and I love the reflections, and he did all those pieces in the Philadelphia Museum that are made out of, with glass and mirrors, and the famous cracked glass thing. Yeah. That's all I have to say.
That was the end of it. Yeah, I love that story. How do you photograph? Because all those people do commission, you know them. How do you photograph? Have you ever photographed somebody you don't know? You don't know anything about them.
I don't know any of these people.
But you know their
well, I know something about them. They're usually famous. Yeah. The first problem I have is, and I wrote about in my new book. It's about I hate studios. I can work in studios, but I hate studios. The same, no seam, white paper, jump up and down. That's why you get all those headshots. When I pictured me with when I turned 40, I decided I should do a what they call a commemorative stamp portrait. Like we should commemorate special events. Can you imagine? I turned 40. Oh my God, I'm 40. I'm 85 now. Do the math. Anyway, no, you go there and you have to make do, and I love that. I like inventing. I like doing what I've never done before, and each person I like, what the hell am I going to do with this guy, But I have a whole bag of tricks. I love double exposures. I like mirrors. I like, that's all I remember. Okay.
Then you started doing this, which is painting on...
Well, yeah, I've always been, when I was in Pittsburgh, I went to those museum classes, and I loved doing that. Every Saturday I would go, and then we would have a contest at the end of the year with all the best, and I won first and second prize, and I got to go to Carnegie Mellon, and that was really, if you went there, you were really really hip and cool, Except my trolley from McKeesport was late half the time. That's another story. So I began to paint on photographs, and I showed them at the Janice's, and what's his name? Hilton Kramer really kicked me in the balls. And it's so interesting. What I find is he said I couldn't draw or paint. How many artists can draw and paint? Go on. Can we talk? Anyway, I love drawing and painting. You see, the more things that you enjoy, the more pleasures I love reading. I had a wonderful quote from Nabokov the other day that I just savored, and he said words to the effect that it was when her name came up in conversation casually, that the memory tripped down the words of a sentence, and she never turned back to look. It was something like that. Wow, that is spectacular. That is so gorgeous. And can you remember maybe when you broke up with somebody? And a big thing when you're involved with somebody is when they leave, to see if they look back. Looking back is very important. The idea that she didn't look back. I found that was so touching, and he still remembered it. That's the stuff I love. That's the stuff I could do a little. One of my first sequence was Sad Farewell. A couple at the top of the steps, they embraced in an old tenement, and he goes down the steps and she waves goodbye, and that's all that happens. See, that's the stuff. It's like this.
This one is also about the chance meeting.
Yeah.
For
it's
those
chance
who don't know
meetings. It's about,
somebody who looks back.
That's the story. Haven't you passed somebody up? This could be many things. It could be a cruise. That's a gay cruise if I ever saw one. Hello. Too little, too late. Yeah. Read the wall. Read the number on the wall. Anyway, but this is the fermentation. Just ticking off on one little line that somebody said that you feel that you suddenly sense that. So it's in intimacy. It's not making the photograph 7 feet by 20 feet, and it's a parking lot in Tokyo. Who gives a fuck about a parking lot in Tokyo? But what it's about is this little moment when somebody says something. And it's a bon mot. You get, oh, did you hear what? My Fred, he's got Alzheimer's now. He says the most wonderful things. Oh, I wish I could remember. They're just absolutely beautiful little things. Oh, we asked him why we were here, AKA, what's the meaning of life? And he said, we're here to take care of each other, of course. That's the best meaning of life I've ever heard. Here we are, around this dizzy little minuscule doesn't exist star. We should all be hugging each other and taking care of each other, and kissing each other, and loving each other. Instead, we're chopping each other up, piles and piles of money, which is piles and piles of shit. Nothing, nothing, nothing. Fred was right. We should be here taking care of each other. And that's why, when you get old, like me, and I am old, I admit to old. When you become old, I'll tell you what I remember. I remember in the entire history of Duane, those moments when I was in love with somebody, even whatever degree of affection was exchanged, that's what you remember. It's not the other stuff. It's that moment. You know, I can remember my first couple of crushes in high school, exactly. I remember the first time I saw him. The first time I saw the guy walked in the room, I said, whoa, what's that? Whoa, 1948. Never mind. McKeesport, we didn't have gay people in McKeesport. We had sissies. You didn't want to be a sissy. And queers are worse than sissies. But there was rumor that Donald Middleton was, you know. Where was I? I'm so distracted with my late sex life. When you're 85, you never use the word late in terms of your name. Late Duane. Okay, shall we go on?
Okay, I want to talk about the last couple series you worked on, which is color.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's Fred. We live on 19th Street, and that's Fred. We had a big blizzard, walking up and down in front of the house in a blizzard. I said, put on that kimono, take that Japanese, and so people coming the block would see this guy doing U-turns in front of the house, which I thought was funny. I love hokusai. I love the Japanese way. Have you ever looked at Japanese? Do you know what Japanese is? Well, this is a pretty, you probably do. But when I discovered all of that Japanese work from, you know, and that's where to start. You know that Van Gogh left 200 Japanese prints, that Degas had 75 Japanese prints. You know the washerwomen, the whores, the whole thing. That's right out of ukiyo-e. It's, I mean, hokusai, and they called Bonnard the Japanese Nabi. The plaid walls in Vuillard's painting, all out of Japanese prints. The black and red Aristide Briand poster, the Toulouse-Lautrec, all Toulouse-Lautrec in a Japanese costume, all. And I don't know why that, you know, I never got that. I never got that till I found on my own and read it all. That work is stunning, absolutely stunning. So then I said to myself, why are photographs always squares and rectangles? Why can't they be fans? Now Gauguin left, did 23, I got a book in Paris of all of Gauguin's fan paintings. So I started doing fan photographs. And I did most of them in the country, and I just think they're so gorgeous. Is there any, I hope there are more.
No,
is that all? Only one?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
You can't let them out. This is a little film.
Oh yeah, I went up to Trump Tower twice before the election with my little sign. I wanted to pee on the wall, but I couldn't find my dick. It was so cold.
Sorry. Okay.
Now, don't forget. In the history of the entire universe, insert your name here. You will most of you will never see me again. So, this. Oh, you want to hear a Second World War joke? Okay.
Yes,
now,
yes.
There's an atoll in the South Pacific with about 15 soldiers there. It's a weather station. There's no combat. And so they were sending a new replacement, and the captain is showing this new private around the weather station, familiarizing him where, you know, the gun and all this stuff was. And he said, oh, incidentally, you know, all these guys are so young, and we're about 3,000 miles from the nearest woman, and everybody's horny. Anytime you feel horny, you see that barrel over there? He said, yeah. He said, was he the knot hole? He said, yeah. He said, well, anytime you feel horny, put your dick in the knot hole, and you'll be rewarded. He said, you mean anytime I feel horny, I can put my dick in the knot hole? He said, well, not any time, any day but Tuesday. He said, well, why not Tuesday? He said, that's your day in the barrel.
I don't have any question after that.
Okay.
Because I can't end on a better note than this. But does anybody have a question in the audience?
What kind of camera do you
Oh,
like?
no.
Okay, so no questions about cameras.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Yes.
You mentioned in the beginning that you knew when making your first work that it wasn't the destination, it was just the stage.
Yeah.
So, I mean, for somebody making work, I guess young, it's like, what do you say to them? How do they know, or how did you know that it wasn't your destination? Like, how did you know that you know your destination?
Do it. Two choices in life, doing and bullshit. I'm sick and tired of students and people talking about their projects that they never finished. I know this one guy, an artist. He always had projects. Here's my idea. I'm going to flood Times Square. We're going to 100 white elephants will come charging down the square, each one spewing different color spew out of their spewers. You know, of course, nothing ever got done. You know, I'm C. Dick, C. Jane. If I think of it on Monday, we'll have it done by Friday.